Hello everyone and welcome to a new video on the YouTube channel of Ultimate Fishing International. My name is Sietze and today we're going to do something quite funny. Recently we've posted our first video talking about squid fishing, about eggy fishing, in particular highlighting the products from the brand Yamashita, one of the biggest and most well-known brands in Japan. We've covered all the bases from the shore, the day, the night, how to pick your lure, how to pick your color. As you can clearly see, today we're no longer from the shore and we're going to talk about two very specific techniques to catch as much squid as possible from the boat. Number one, it's going to be tip run. We're going to use the specialized, very weird rods, funky lures. Later on we're going to talk about Ika Metal. We're going to show you how to be the most efficient you can be to catch as much squid as you can, either for the kitchen, for bait or just for fun. Come along with us and let's have a nice day on the water. We're on. He's gonna be lucky today. Nice little squid. We're hoping for some bigger ones, so we're gonna let him go quite quick. Let's see if we can get one of the famous big ones that are around here. The next one, a little bit bigger. Unfortunately for him, he's not gonna be so lucky. It's gonna make us very happy tonight. Right, we're fishing still fishing the tip run from Yamashita, the TR. We're gonna explain you how to use it. So you cast it to the back end of the boat, about 1.10 meters in a 45-degree angle. I like to control the line, don't let it go completely slack, especially if it's windy or there's tide. Make sure you let it go out on a controlled level. Let it go down all the way to the bottom. Fairly deep here, it's about 70 meters. That's the bottom. Then you hold it for a second, because quite often, especially if they're active, as soon as it drops in their face, you might already attract them. And then quite simply, in the same angle as your line, so the 45-degree angle, you start to fish it, and then you already have one on. As we explained in the first video, if you are jerking your eggy and suddenly you feel the weight, you've missed the bite. 99.9% of the time they always take it on the descent when it's falling down. So in this case, like I explained, sometimes it drops in their face, they're already on it. I just didn't notice the bite. It's quite a small one as well. So we're going to release it, and there we go. And then just simply repeat the process. We've just started, but we're already noticing that there's one particular base color, in this case the Kimura, which is standing out. Our captain behind me is taking care of dinner, and he tried some other colors, and this is the main color. And the biggest difference, I mean, like we discussed again in the first one, from the shore, squid fishing can be very simple. There is always instances when they are very active, but with picking the right color, picking the right base color, the neon bright, the Kimura, the right type of glow, you can make a huge difference between catching 2 or 3 squid or out fishing everyone on the pier, on the dike, on the jetty, or in this case on the water. And it can make a big difference. So we're on the bottom again. I'm gonna leave it there for a couple seconds, let the line settle. Jerk it a couple times and hold it. Especially with these special tip run rods, you have a solid tip, bright color. I missed one there. It's actually for us lure fishermen, it makes us think more about feeder. There we go. About feeder rods than about lure fishing rods. And you can see even the tiniest bite. It's a super fun way to fish. Again, one of the smaller ones. But they are very active today. But once again, like I said, it's very similar to sea bass fishing. If sea bass are active, or if any fish basically is active, it's easy to catch them. But there is always a very big difference in catching a few or catching a lot. And that's where picking the specialized lines, the specialized rods, but in particular, the lure is the most important. You can fish them on your bass rods. I mean, this is a lot more fun. It's super light, you're fishing PE06. But if you're just using the same techniques on bass gear, absolutely no problem at all. As long as you make sure that your selection of the squid jig, of the eggie, is the right one for given the day and the conditions. We're back on the bottom. And it's very important to keep that 45-degree angle. So if you're fishing vertical with the TR, it's quite difficult to get the right action in them. Same as from the shore, it's not just a thing that looks like a big prawn or a big shrimp. They really have, like any other lure for actual fish. Obviously we're fishing for something that's not a fish. But like any other lure, like a jerkbait, like a topwater, they have a lot of action built in. If you're fishing vertical, you won't get the most out of them. So the 45-degree angle, let them sit. As you can hear, when I'm jerking it, you can hear my drag running. Same principle as the shore fishing with the regular eggies from the shore or from the boat. You can also use them like you're casting for sea bass from the boat. That's also possible. You don't have to go from the boat. It's much more efficient. I'm getting some bites at the meantime. It's much more efficient to focus on the boat-orientated tactics. And the action is not only to prevent unhooking them, because the tentacles, obviously, it's a bit different than sticking a hook in a fish. But it's also to keep the action in the eggie. Time the tension had a little tap. They didn't take. I missed some other ones. You just give it a little quiver, don't really jerk it. As soon as I let it sit down again, a settle, a nice little squid took it. A little bit better size as well, and the tension just came off, the tip straightened, and we're on. There we go. That is slightly better sized. Like I just mentioned, if you know it, some of the tentacles, they are slightly bigger. And this is where they attack them with, to try to stun their prey, their shrimp or their sardine. And this one made a little mistake. Really funny little creatures. Beautiful. Bite again. You feel a little tap and you can really feel them pulling it through their mouth with the tentacles. That's a nice one. Slightly bigger ones just drift. There we go. Beautiful big one. On the TR, the Kimura base. A lovely big one. So one thing we get asked about quite a bit which is also especially if you're new to this fishery or if you like fishing for squid but you never really took it this serious, is how to or how much to jerk, to animate, to give action basically to your squid jig. And that is it's quite a simple answer. We jerk between 3 and 10 times. 10 times for me it's a little bit too much, but that's what the guys in Japan as well, on average, the technique. And in between when you're moving your lure, the bite, it's almost like clockwork. It's between 3 to 5 seconds. So it's quite easy. We've just touched the bottom. So we're holding it for a couple seconds. Then we start moving it. And we count to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we go again. So like we've briefly touched upon, we'll go in detail later about the rods. We're using very specialized equipment. So this is a tip run rod made for boat fishing with eggies, with squid jigs. It has one particular reason. It has a tip that most fishermen will be familiar with from their feeder rods for their coarse fishing, or sometimes you see it on drop shot rods. And that's because the bites from the squid, they can be very different. There's 3 types of bite. Especially the squid, they have 2 tentacles that are a bit bigger than others. Sometimes you get a very clear boonk, almost like it's a perch or even a small sea bass. Second type of bite is just a slow pull away, the pressure builds. And the third type of bite is basically the tension, as you can see on the rod tip. There is a little bit of tension on there. And sometimes it's just the tension just falls off, the tip straightens back up and a squid just lifted it up. Those 3 types of bite, they can be very finicky sometimes and very hard to feel. And this is why we picked the specialized tackle to maximize our chances. But once again, the most important thing here is the choice of the squid jig. This is mainly just to make it even more efficient and, as tackle tarts like we all are, a bit more fun. Right, so the day progresses, and with the day also the tide. When we arrived on the spot, we couldn't really find the fish. There was a lot of current, it's quite a big tide on the Aqua Sounder, on the fish finder. There wasn't really anything to find. And this is one of the reasons why we've started with the tip run. The tip run, as I explained, with a 45-degree angle, it covers very quickly a lot of water layers, the water column. And it's really easy to find where the fish are. Now with the Egeo TR, we've noticed that the squid are holding up in one particular water column. And we're gonna use a different technique to target them even more efficient. We're gonna put away the tip run. And we're gonna start with something that some of you may never even have seen. It would not be completely fair to the technique, but basically it's a sabiki for squid. This technique is called Ika Metal. Ika is Japanese for squid. This thing is made of lead. Lead is a metal. Ika Metal. Quite simple. It is a trace. In this case, I have 3 different squid jigs. So on the trace, on the bottom, on the Ika Metal leader from Yamashita, on the bottom is an armor. In this case, 56 grams. Above it comes an upper. Quite important to notice, like I explained with the TR, the Kimura base was much more effective than the other ones, so in this case obviously we've opted for the same base in those. And last but not least is a little squish from Yamashita, slightly different color, mainly for the contrast. This technique is good for 3 different reasons. The first is if you would like to catch a big cuttlefish. Cuttlefish, they are a lot more on the bottom. The squid, they're pelagic species, so they can be found in almost all layers, even close to the surface, although rare, not uncommon. Cuttlefish are straight on the bottom. Well, 56 grams obviously finds the bottom a lot easier than an average squid jig. So that's reason number 1. Reason number 2, because of the weight, these go way over 100 grams. Even in really tough conditions, when there's a lot of wind, very strong current, you can fish them much more efficiently. And last but not least, and also the same reason as I briefly mentioned why we're going to use them now, is because with this technique, especially if you have a line with a color coded with a band for the depth, you can very precisely, up to the meter, fish one particular column. So if you're like now or in the beginning of the drift, you could really clearly see they're holding in 6 meters. You can drop it, every meter is a bar, 6 bars on your line, you're exactly on the depth and you can hold it there. The way to fish them is a little bit different than the TR system, so we're going to drop it down and show you how to fish them. So now we've noticed on the fish finder, in this case the squid finder, there's a nice group completely stuck on the bottom under the boat, so we're fishing completely vertical, let it go down until it stops, take it off the bottom, hold it for a few seconds, and then really nervous, shake and hold it there again for those 5 seconds. If you have no luck, go again. A second retrieve, or not really a retrieve, but way of fishing it. Slow lift. Really quickly drop your tip. Be careful that it doesn't wrap around your tip, especially if you're using a bass rod. The tip run rods, they have a special little bite there. They have a special guide setting, very fine. There we go. Very fine guides to prevent the wrapping. This feels like it might be a cuttlefish or a very good squid. Or we have 3 squids at the same time. As you can see, it is a very efficient technique. I'm not sure if the camera can see all 3 of them, one just got away. It's basically the whole group that we've seen on the squid finder has decided to take the full Ika Metal setup. And all very nice ones. So if you're really onto them, it's not only a very effective way of finding the depths, but also a very effective way to catch as much as possible in a short amount of time. Especially if you take care about the right colors, the right movement. Number 2 is very small, so number 2 can go. And it's a case of repeating the process. At the moment the weather is completely flat calm. You can go completely vertical, but the objective is to keep fish as vertical as possible. So if you have conditions with more current or a bit of wind and your drift is quite fast, cast slightly up the drift to make sure that when it hits the bottom, it's as straight as possible. We have hit the bottom, lift it a little bit, short jerks. When it comes to the rod, we're still using the same rod as we've just have been using with the tip run, the TR method. This is, like I said before, a specialized boat eggy, boat squid model. Most of these in Japan and also in our catalog, they have a dual casting rating. One is actually not a casting rating, but a vertical rating. In this case, it's rated casting for the tip run method, where you're not really casting but fishing the 45-degree angle, up to 30 grams. So it can handle most of the TR eggies on the market, the squid jigs. And it has a vertical rating up to 80 grams, but it can handle much more if you want even the heavier armors. So that's a very useful rod, a useful type of rod to own if you are doing a lot of squid fishing from the boat, as it can handle both the tip run and the Ika Metal handles. With the Ika Metal, it's obviously because of the weight, the tip leans very heavy, but that actually helps with the bites because it's completely on tension. So every little tap, every little bite will come through very clear. This again might be more than one. Or one very big one. Or bigger one. Especially when they're trying to get hold of you. It's really weird to sometimes to grab them. And again, beautiful one. They can change their colors quite a bit. A very fun bite. on the Ika Metal rig. Just managed to wrap itself completely. Beautiful. As I mentioned in the intro, or when we switched to the Ika Metal technique, we're using specialized lines which have barred markers for the depth. If you don't have those, or even if you just want to find the depth yourself, it is quite easy. Quite easy trick to keep in mind. If you let it go down all the way to the bottom, if you know the retrieve speed of your reel, but even if you missed a bite in the meantime, if you know the retrieve speed, but even if you don't know that, for example, take 4 turns of your spool, start on the bottom, and first try to catch one there. 4 turns of the spool, repeat the process, shake it, lift it, drop it, play a little bit on every depth, and if it doesn't produce 1, 2, 3, hold it for a second and start doing it again. So even if you fish from a very cheap boat, or you don't have electronics, if you fish from a paddleboard, a kayak, any floating thing, or if you have trouble finding the squid, because if they're not grouped up, it's very hard to see them on the finder. This is a very efficient way to cover all the depths, and it's a very repeatable process as well, because as long as you stay fairly similar in the depth, 4 turns or 3 turns or whatever amount is the same amount. So every time, if you notice from the bottom down, 4 turns or 8 turns or any amount, you're getting the bites. Next time, reel it up straight away to that depth. So you go 8 turns, for example, and you can be as efficient as possible. This is the end of the day for us. The sun is setting. We finished the last drift and we had a lot of fun. Caught loads of squids on the TR, the tip run method, and the Ika Metal method. Most important thing is experiment with your colors. Don't think a squid jig is a squid jig. Yes, it will deliver you some squid, but there is a big difference, especially with how sensitive these creatures can be to color and to glow and certain other things, which we mainly already discussed in the video when it comes to squid fishing from the shore. The Ika Metal one, the last one we've used, for the people who are scared when they see this, all the bits and bobs, all the terminal tackle, you don't have to be. Yamashita sells them complete. The Ika Metal Leader. There's multiple versions with 2 droppers, with 1 dropper, and with short and long droppers. The short and long droppers is mainly for different situations. Like we've mentioned in earlier Yamashita videos, the squid preferred if the jig sinks like this. And with the longer ones, if it's very bumpy, you build a little bit more give in the system. So when your tip is moving up and down, you don't move the jig with it. Super simple, very effective, a lot of fun. And even if you don't use any of the special squid rods, something that's definitely worth to give it a go. And it will increase massively your success on the water when you want to catch some nice squid. I hope you enjoyed the video. I do know it was a bit of a particular one, fishing for something that's not fish. But it is really funny, and I do urge you to give it a go, even if it's just for laughs. See you next time on the water.